Hey y'all, it's Alex and welcome back to my channel. So this video was originally supposed to start off with me saying Merry Christmas, because this is the video that was supposed to go up on Christmas. But, I celebrated Christmas over at my family's house, and I admit I got a little bit sloppy. I was supposed to do the audio recording on the 23rd, didn't do it. Decided to push it off till the 24th, didn't do it. Tried doing it on the 25th, and I didn't realize that my audio recording setting was set to my built-in microphone, so the audio quality was super shitty. And then the 25th came and went, and I got fed up with it. I didn't want to spend my Christmas not liking the audio for this, and then I immediately got a sinus infection. So I just kind of pushed this video off for a little bit. I didn't want to record this with ill-fitting audio because this is a project that has actually been on my to-do list since summer of 2018. On my little item list of eventual pieces, this is labeled I Spy at the Witches. So I know I grew up with I Spy being pretty prevalent in my literature. My family, each of my sisters and I had a I Spy book kind of like pinpointed for us. I unfortunately did not get Spooky I Spy. I'm pretty sure that was my older sister's, but I wanted for a while to do a piece in the style of I Spy, and it was supposed to be a little bit more item-ish, but when I sat down and started thumbnailing this out back in, I want to say I started thumbnailing in November, it just kind of developed into more of a story illustration. And it developed alongside of a poem. That poem is called A Winter's Visit from Death, which is what this piece ended up being called also. But A Winter's Visit from Death will be revisited. I want to do more with that, so therefore I'm going to save the poem for the future. Instead, we're going to focus on this illustration, which I just finished the sketching of through my long ranting of my audio problems, which I'm still having audio problems. My computer fan just kicked on, and I don't know how well you guys can hear it. I'm trying a new recording setup. I'm in a closet right now. The cat keeps wanting to jump up in here, and it has these weird tears that she's climbing all over me to get through. But anyway, so if you look in the top right-hand corner room of this building, you might recognize these characters, and also the one who is inside of the brewing room. If you've stuck with me through all of this year's, well, 2019's Inktober, the witch dolls that I created on day 5 of Inktober were actually the prototype for this piece. When I started thumbnailing it, I originally was thinking that I would do that kind of blocky style to replicate this particular I Spy piece, but when I did that piece, I realized it was really hard to actually hide a whole bunch of things in, which is why I went for this super realistic background with these witch characters. That way I could have characters while also having things be large enough to be readable from this scale. This piece is 11 inches by 15 inches. It is by no means the biggest piece that I've ever done. The biggest piece I've ever done, I'm actually going to be recording that video later this week. And a little intrusion from Rosebud. She's taken to jumping up on my desk while I'm working on things because she needs a lot of attention. Boop. Anyhow, oh god, what was I talking about? I'm too distracted by cats. Okay, regardless of what I was just talking about, this piece was a lot of working with shapes, and I'll admit it was really hard for me to figure out what to hide where. I had a little, you know, the I Spy poem down at the bottom? I had that written out beforehand, but going into it, I also forgot what I was doing, and therefore there are more of one thing to find, less of another thing to find. I changed which word I was focusing on, which was a really bad decision, because the word that I ended up putting down in the poem is a lot harder to find than the other word that I had originally planned for and illustrated. If you can figure out which word I'm talking about, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. This room right here, which I've called the portrait room, is actually my favorite one through the entire process. Originally, I was just gonna have it be a dining room with this plaque up on the wall and these two windows, but I decided it looked really boring, so I decided to go back in and re-sketch these 3 portraits. And the way I look at it is the one on the farthest left is the past of the landscape, the one in the middle is the present, and the one on the very far right is the future. And we went from like autumn to winter to possible apocalypse. You'll see what I mean later, but the middle portrait I'm so glad is the one that doesn't have a flower pot in front of it. If I had thought of the portraits beforehand, I would not have put the flower pots there, just so that way I could have had more illustration like in the portraits, but it does make it look like a more fleshed out room. We're just going to entirely ignore the bar stools in front of them though. I freehanded those, and that was a very, 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 very bad idea. So I'm really hoping that I am able to get this video up when I intended. For transparency's sake, I am intending to get this piece up on the 8th of January, but I'm going to see how likely that is, considering I am recording this audio on the 7th, and my internet is out, and it probably won't be back on until late tomorrow evening. So I might have to actually upload this on my lunch break at work. So if this ends up being later than the 8th, I apologize. There's just sometimes some technical issues that cannot be fixed. But how has your guys' 2019 been starting off? Mine has been a little rough, admittedly. I've had a lot of anxiety issues, and I'm just trying to move on into the future. I'm really hoping that I can make more stuff soon. The last time I actually sat down and filmed was, I think, December 17th? So it's been a process for me. I hope you guys are doing a lot better. This piece was one of the first ones I've actually been able to do in full color range acrylic ink. Right after Inktober, I bought myself the sap green, this kind of aqua colored, and this light orange Liquitex acrylic ink, and for Christmas I actually got the muted set, so I am officially possibly all set for Inktober in 2020, which I'm already prepping for, you know it. I tried to do the wet painting beforehand and going in to an area so that way I didn't get streaks. I didn't get streaks, but the problem was I'd already gone in with the full value color elsewhere, and I did not have the patience to go through and do multiple passes on the sky. It really would have behooved me to have a one of those latex pens, the watercolor protectant stuff. I did get one for Christmas, so I'm looking to use that in the near future, but unfortunately I filmed this in spurts going from November to, I think I finished it on December 11th. But this piece actually took me in total 13 hours and 52 minutes, I believe. It's the second longest I've ever taken on a piece, and I think the longest I've ever taken on a piece was for my art class in college. But the one thing that I think really started bringing me, like, the thing that snowballed my excitement for this piece was adding in all of that shadowing to the snow inside of the present portrait that I'm focusing on right here now. I don't know why that part of the illustration in particular I just gravitate towards so much. And the fact that it's so small kind of gets me every time I look back at it. Like, this section is no larger than maybe like 2.5 inches by 5, maybe. And I honestly put the most detail that I'm happy with. Like, the little patterning on the vases. It doesn't have the most detail by far in the entire piece, but it's the one room I'm happiest with. I wish I could have done a little bit more detailing on the moon here, but there's only really so much you could do. I really like hiding. I mean, like, everyone likes hiding patterns in the moon whenever they happen to draw it, but that is something that you're gonna definitely have to look out for when you're doing the actual finding part of this illustration at the very end. I'm hoping to have scans. I don't know how likely that is, considering my internet's out, but we're gonna see about that. I'm going to go do that immediately after I'm done recording audio, and I still need to edit this tonight. Someone please pray for me, or just someone please send me a whole bunch of Mountain Dew. That's really all I need. I can't drink coffee. I'd ask for coffee otherwise. One of my regrets through working on this piece was the color choices I chose for some of the individual rooms. I went through, as soon as I was done with the portrait piece, I was like, okay, time to just kind of scattershot. I can't spend all of my time on just one section because I spend too long waiting for things to dry, and also that portrait room took me 1 hour and 45 minutes. So that was a little long. I think I should have picked a different color than this kind of mustardy yellow. I like this color in certain occasions. I think it was possibly the best of all evil choices for the mudroom down in the bottom with the scared cat and the double set of doors. Which that room doesn't make a whole lot of physical sense, but that idea was remnant from when I was doing a 3D depth view of each of the rooms, and that just couldn't stay if I wanted to have actual dimension, like actual readable objects in each of the rooms. Yes, colors. So the yellow, the mud room or the coat room or whatever you want to call that, the foyer, it kind of works in that yellow, but the dorm room, I think I should have made the blue and switched that with the kitchen. I can see a yellow kitchen. I'm used to having a blue kitchen. That's just kind of like what I've always had. But a yellow bedroom just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, bedrooms are supposed to have calm paint colors so that way you can actually fall asleep. And also, when I did shading later, it meant all of the blue shading turned the background this kind of weird pebbly green, and it just... I've got to say though, working with acrylic ink, I haven't worked with acrylic inks in this way in a very, well, actually ever. I don't think even when I was doing Inktober challenges in just acrylic ink, I had this amount of colors. So it was nice to actually kind of work through the full range of things, because it actually does make it look more realistic. I considered going with a limited color palette, but I feel like I would have gotten bored. I say this time and again, when people have like just one set of colors they use forever, I don't understand how they don't get bored with what they're making. I'm going to be challenging myself. I believe April I'm making my challenge month. Well, that's my birth month. One of these months this year, I'm going to be challenging myself to do a limited color challenge. I'm going to pick a few colors and have a few supplies in a couple different mediums that will just be in those colors, just to kind of see how I can stretch my color usage. Or maybe I'll have like 2 different default settings and only stick to 2 color palettes, because I feel like I would drive myself literally insane if I only stuck with one. Another time this year, I'm planning on doing a month of watercolor challenges, just making myself hammer in and use actual watercolors, because acrylic inks are kind of like my comfort zone. I absolutely love them because if you spill your water glass over top of your piece, it's not absolutely ruined. Yes, that did happen, and yes, it is later in this video. I think the shading color aside, when it comes to the dorm room, I think the library is my least favorite room, just because I'm not a big fan of rainbows. I don't like a whole mess of colors altogether. If you see how I dress in 2 colors at a time. That's it. So I went kind of like all over the frickin' place for the library, and it just has no rhyme or reason. I went all over the place for colors. Oh god, that crack was my thumb. Woohoo. I went all over the place for the colors in the mudroom, but they each have their individual places. I really wanted these doors to be a stained glass kind of texture, which is why I'm so glad that acrylic inks just kind of become transparent if you're nice enough with them, and it just, layering. It works. There's not a lot of fuss with it, and I think I'm going to move more towards working with acrylic inks, but the problem is I need to get a better acrylic ink sketchbook if I'm going to be doing that. My B Paper Company mixed media sketchbook, I have 8 pages left, and I started it on November 5th. And I'll link that if you are interested in seeing me start that video, or start that sketchbook. And once again, a visit from Rosebud. This time we get some polite tippy taps. And yes, she will sit there and just do that the entire time that I'm working on a piece. Just claws out, murder mittens. You know, I'm kind of fortunate that I'm not left-handed then, because that would be the hand that she's grabbing for most often. While I was working on this piece, I didn't have a purple in my... I almost said armory, and there's the spilled water. Luckily, it just kind of dabbed up, so everything's fine. Collection, that's the word, collection. I didn't have a purple or a brown in my collection, and honestly, I'm not very happy with Liquitex's browns. They're just all kinds of funky. I got a set a while ago, and I was intending to actually use them for art things, and then I decided I hated every single color because they were either too yellow or too gross. I might need to get another one and just kind of toy around with it again because my color opinions have changed, but yeah, I used those to dye wigs and they didn't work, so I pretty much just wasted all those inks, and I feel a little bad. But I had to mix my own brown for this entire piece, and mixing took me some time. I also used that brown to do a whole lot of rust color on any of the metal venting that is in the, we've got the kitchen and the brewery room and the pipes that go out to kind of vent the steam. But, yeah, it definitely looks like blood, you know. Oh, there's also a little bit of jam smeared on, like, the flour bin, so. Oh my god, I finally have nothing to say. We only have 3 minutes left. I'm probably not going to be editing this audio too heavily. I apologize for that if there's any pauses. I'm trying to modify my style a little bit, just so that way it's a little bit easier on me, and I'm a chatty person, so it's actually pretty easy for me to fill up a 20-minute video. At the point I was doing the smoke, I was like, well, this piece is pretty much done. There's really only a few things left, and then I was like, wait, what if we put shadowing everywhere? Because only a few of the rooms were intended to actually have lights on. I kept lights on in the portrait room, the broom room, the mud room, foyer, whatever. But I wanted to kind of add some atmosphere to the other rooms, like the brewery room. I wanted to have a warmer glow to it. It made it busier, which I don't know if it was the best choice. I should have gone in with a smaller textured brush. It also bugged me that some of the rooms just didn't have light bulbs, so I went in and added light bulbs, and I shouldn't have done that. I think the one room that has the best shading in it is the kitchen, just because I got the angle right. The secret bone room attic is also pretty well done, but the Liquitex, or the wash that I used for the shading, kind of beaded on top of the brown because there was just too much going on. And in the dormitory, I've already said that it made it a weird green, and it also kind of did that pebbling, but I also didn't angle the shadowing properly. If the moon is off to the left, the shadowing shouldn't be coming directly down. It should be at least slightly tilted one way. I didn't think of that, and I really wanted it to just be shining down. And I also tried using some white colored pencil to mark out where the candlelight was, and it didn't really work out. It did okay. And last thing that I did for the main part of the illustration, I went in and I added stars. I don't think I should have highlighted sections of the smoke, and obviously I had to include Orion in there somewhere. And now that the illustration is done, it's time to add the text. The quote-unquote poem is, "Find me. Spilled spirits, hell, 10 witches, tomes out of place, 2 very loose stitches, a dozen mice, a deathly face, a sorrowful tale, a paintbrush, broken glass, and avat que veil." The avat que veil will become apparent in the part 2 of this piece. That, unfortunately, probably won't be coming until next December. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching me work on this piece, and I'm glad that it's finally out there in the world. I did post it on my Instagram like last week, but I hope to have a scan up for you guys so that way you can actually go through and not just look through the video for all of the parts of the quote-unquote find it. This has been a winter's visit from death in the style of I Spy, and alright, if you'd feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and check me out on my other social media handles, and I would love it if you guys would check out my Patreon. I should be getting the next Random Prompts Challenge thumbnails up there for anybody to vote on if you sign up to be a patron of mine. I would be absolutely over the moon if you would support my art if you're able to. Absolutely don't feel bad that if you can't. But yeah, thanks, and I'll see y'all in the next one.